easily.
Yes,
As
very
compared,
short, very small resources can run it easily, and
yes,
it gets executed faster than VS Code.
right,
Because
right,
VS Code itself, that IDE itself is a heavy one. So that is why I recommended Dev C++ for execution, because I don't recommend too much of resources to be used for executing some programs.
right, right.
Okay, so that is why I recommended VS Code. Not an issue. You can keep whichever IDE you have, you can keep on using that. And before starting to today's session, let me see your notebooks. Anything written? Anything written? Class notes? Okay, Stacy has some 1, 2, 3 pages. Okay. Why, Rahul? You are on no. Okay, notebook is there, but is that on whatever we have covered for the last 2, 3 days? Rahul, you are muted. Yeah.
Uh, Actually, only yesterday notes, not previous
So
class.
why didn't you take down the algorithms and flowchart? Because that was the primary stepping stone. Okay, I believe you have some exposure to the full stack development, so hence you didn't took it up.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
anyway, you practice a habit that take down the class notes, because what happens is at the end of the, or maybe the previous day of your exam, these class notes will be very easy for you to like go through, and because you can type your own some short notes or tips or whichever you want to, some symbolic something you can use over there, so that it will be very crisp and small, but it will help you to understand everything, or for a quick reference it will help you. So always follow a habit of whichever course you are doing, always follow a habit of taking down at least some class notes. Okay, so now we can just move on to, okay, yesterday we have seen what's the difference between compiler, interpreter, then how can you write a C source code. So a simple C source code with a preprocessor to include a header file, then starting with the main, then inside the main there was a simple output statement which print some message into, or message to the user. Now the steps, yes Banu.
Ma'am, how can we do the C compilation, all these things in Linux? Please tell in short, because
Yeah, in
I'm not.
Linux mostly you may be having GCC. So are you working on Linux, Banu?
No, no, not work on that, but just need to know. Uh,
Okay, fine. Let me see my virtual box is running or not.
no, it's okay, ma'am. No,
No,
practically,
it's okay.
but
No, it's okay. I'll
which
show you
tool?
up. No, I'll show you. Just a minute.
Okay, ma'am. Thank
Because
you.
for a long time, I'm not using the virtual box, but let me see whether it's working. If it's working, I'll show you.
Because in embedded, they're going to teach only in Linux
Yes,
only.
yes, of course. And
Mm.
embedded C, you may be learning. So at that time, maybe mostly they will be teaching you how to compile and all. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let me show. Yeah, my Linux is running. A long time I am not using, so it may take some time. Okay, fine.
Oh,
So
this is
this is
big.
no, I cannot make it bigger because this is a virtual box which is running.
It is fine, ma'am.
Yeah.
Just only console or what tools is there.
Yeah, fine. So I will just open a terminal and see whether GCC is there. Sorry, it's not there. So you may,
Now I got
yeah,
it. Same thing. I can do. I can compile using GCC, right? And
yeah, yes, GCC. So suppose, for example, if my program is GCC hello.c, I can
mhm,
compile like this statement. So now
mhm.
what happens is in Windows and in Dev C++, when I was running, after compilation, I'll get an exe file. But in the case of GCC, it will give you a file known as a.out.
Got it on. Got it. Out
Okay,
file.
so
Out file.
yeah,
Hmm.
after giving this compilation statement, you may have to give ./a.out. It will execute your program.
Ah, got it. Got it. The
Okay, so this
output
is,
file. Hmm.
yeah,
Got
output
it.
file. because that's why I told you, like, different compilers will give you different types of object code.
Oh,
Because
got
here,
it.
yeah, here in dev C++, it was giving me the exe file, but in GCC, normal GCC under Linux or in VS Code, it gives you only a out file, which is
Okay.
executable only, Okay, so that's how it gets executed.
Any
So
ID there for Linux? Any ID or
normally we use VI editor or
okay?
any other type of thing for editing the programs.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
Or,
BI editor, na?
yeah,
Oh,
normally we use that. Okay, so now I hope you understood the steps for the execution of your C programs. Like, first of all, you have to write your program. Then after that, when you try to compile your program, initial thing which is done by the system is pre-processing. That is, all the hash, all the statements which starts with the hash is considered as a preprocessor statement. All those things will be expanded. For example, if it is a hash include, that header file content will be copied and pasted over there instead of that particular one statement. Otherwise, if it is a hash defined, a variable will be defined with a particular value which is given, etc. So pre-processing done is been done as a second step. And next, the compilation will happen. That is, your source code will be read by the compiler, converted into object code, and a .s file, which is an invisible file, is an intermediate product of that. And after linking the program with all the functions or the library files, a .exe file or .o file or .out file will be created, which is visible and which will be executed while you are running your program. So these are the steps for running a C program. So this is just a diagrammatic representation. So we have seen all these things, assembling, linking, and we have also seen all these statements. Now, next one. So let me start my dev C++ course. So you can see how quick this dev C++ is opened. But when you open your VS Code, it itself takes some time for opening, even if it is having 8 GB RAM or whatever GB RAMs you have. So now I'll just take the same program which we have seen yesterday. Now what I want to do is, inside this one, I just wanted to, so okay, so I'll remove all these, or I'll go for a new program. Let it be a new program. So here again, I'm going for hash include stdio.h, and I have a main function. And inside that, so my problem to you is to print out the sum of 50 plus 70, the sum of 50 and 70. Okay, so my question is, your program, your C program should print out 50, the result of 50 plus 70. This is the question. So now what you can do is, directly you can give printf the sum of 50 and 70 is, so now I should not print it out. Okay, I should not manually calculate and print it out, but let C program should calculate it and print it out. Okay, I want to print that value. So 50 plus 70, obviously it will be a number only, right? 50 plus 70 is obviously an integer value. Integer means it's not a decimal point value, it's a whole value. So there are something, so we will see that conversion or the formatting characters, but for the time being, plus C, %d is used for printing whole numbers or integers. So I'm just given %d, and outside that, what I'm giving is 50 plus 70. So this is my program. For the time being, I'm just writing printf sum of 50 and 70 is the I'm not writing 120 because I need not have to calculate it. I want C program to calculate it. So the calculated result is being substituted for against this %d. And the value which has to be calculated is given over here. So for example, if you are saving this, as, for example, sum, and I just wanted it to be saved as a C program, not as a C++. So I can also see my hello.c also in the same directory. So always make a habit, like whenever you are learning a particular language, create a new directory and put the files in that directory only. And if you are doing PGDAC course, create a directory known as PGDAC. And the first module, suppose if it is C programming, create a subdirectory known as C programming, and inside that put all the things. Okay. So similarly for the DBDA and other courses also. So now it's been saved. And suppose, so yesterday we have seen the different steps like compile and run separately, but here I just wanted to compile and run in a go. I don't want to go it in 2 steps. So I have the option in my IDE to compile and run together. So I'm executing that. Here what you are seeing is 50. Okay. So 50 plus 70 is 120. So it's calculated and printed. Okay. So just understand that this percentage D is being substituted with the calculated value of this. But suppose I want, so right now I asked you to sum up 50 and 70, but next I want to add 30 and 20. How will you do that? You need to edit the program. So 50, instead of 50, you have to give 30. Instead of 70, you have to give 50, whatever value. And here also you have to change the value. Again, compile and run the program. Isn't it? It's because I have given the values directly in the program. Clear? Because in the program itself, I have given the values directly. So this type of giving the values directly is known as hard coding. Hard coding. Hard coding in the sense like in the program itself, we give the value. And if I want to change the value, I need to edit the program, save it back, compile it again, and then I have to execute the program. But this is not recommended. Hard coding is not that much recommended because every time I want different numbers to be summed up. So for that particular purpose, what we are going to do is we are going to declare variables. Instead of hard coding, we are going to declare variables, and the values of the variables, while executing the program, we ask the user to give the value. So currently, if I want to add 50 and 70, I have to input 50 and 70. And next time when I execute this, I want to execute 5 and 6. Then at that time, I'll give the input as 5 and 6. So my program need not be edited. My program need not be recompiled. I can just execute the program and input different values for this variable. You can declare variables and take variables from the user. Okay, so don't think like I am writing the program and I am the user. No, we are just developers. So always develop a program thinking that this is going to be used by someone else. Because we are going to be programmers, and the programs which we are going to write or the software which we are going to develop will be used by someone else. So that particular person is known as the user, and the user will give the value, and according to his value, my program will give him the result. So that is the purpose of declaring variables. So there are variables, that is a data item that may take one or more values during the runtime of a program is known as a variable. So any variable which can take any value during the runtime. Runtime means during the running execution of the program. So during the execution of the program, these values can take any value, but at a time there will be only one value in that. In a single variable, only one value in that. But it can keep on changing. I can give 1 right now. I can give 20 after that sometime. I can give 50 after some time. So the value can vary. So that is why the name variable, it can vary the value. So as the name suggests, the variables point or the variable values can also vary, and they are able to take different values over the time of the execution of the program. So now we will see how to declare a variable. So in order to declare a variable, you should know the data types of language. Because normally when we do our mathematics, we have real numbers, floating point numbers, integer values, we have something like that. So similarly, in every programming language also, there are different data types. So based on the data types of the language, you have to define your variable. Because you cannot just give variable A. No, A is not just allowed, but you have to associate a data type for the variable A. Then in that case, what happens is, if I'm giving int A, that means A is the name of the variable and A can hold any integer values. It cannot hold any decimal values. It cannot contain any characters. It cannot contain any Boolean values. So this is what you mean by data type. So the variables are of different data types. So here the data types determine what type of data or whatever variable we are declaring, what type of data it can hold. And every language has its own data types, different data types. So here, each of the data types requires different memory allocation, because the size, because variables or programs, whatever you are using, everything is being saved in the memory, right? Because in order to execute the program, you require the program in the memory. So when you want to save some 20 or 50 in a variable, that values are also stored in the memory. So when you declare a variable, for that variable, some memory is allocated. Okay, so that some memory is being decided by the data type of the variable. For example, if I declare int A as a variable, that A will get specified memory, specified size of memory. And suppose if I give float B, that B variable will get another specified size of memory. And if I declare char C, character is having another size of memory. Okay, so similarly, data type defines how much memory this variable can take or variable will get. So based on the size of the memory, the values which can store will also have a minimum value and a maximum value range. Every data type is having a minimum value as well as a maximum value range. So that is all depending on the size of the memory which it is getting. Okay, so now here you can see there are different data types in C, but you have some keywords over here. Associated with those data types, you can give unsigned and signed keywords, which is a qualifier. So unsigned, suppose for example, if I give int A means it can hold any signed integer value. That means it can hold negative values as well as positive values. But suppose I want to like store your age. Can it be a negative value? Age cannot be a negative value. So based on the application, if I don't want age, like age cannot be a negative value, in that case, I can just give int unsigned int age. That means it will have starting from 0 to the maximum size. Or basically, if I don't declare unsigned or signed, basically by default it is signed. But if I want unsigned, you have to keep this keyword unsigned along with the variable name, variable data type. Okay. Similarly, short and long are also other two keywords. Because if I want to make the data type to be shorter, like not that much enough to that, not that bigger to store this much values, I can make it shorter by using short int. That means suppose for example, if int takes 4 bytes, short int will take only 2 bytes. Similarly, I can restrict the memory used by the variables also. So these are the 4 keywords which we can use associated with the data type. So unsigned and signed will be used only for numeric data types, not for char, boolean, etc. It is used only for numeric data types, and short and long also will be used for this data type. Okay. So we'll just see what are the different data types. First of all, char. Char is a data type, which is basically you can store one character. Suppose if I want to store A, I can declare a variable with char. And another data type. So here you can see character is also allowing you to store the values from 128 to 127 also. Because char data type, it is storing character as well as it can store the numbers in between minus 128 to 127. Because one char is of 1 byte length. That means 1 byte means kitne bit 8. Exactly, Devan. 8 bits. Even if you are muted, I could read your lips. Okay. So it is actually 8 bits. So in 8 bits, how much you can store is minus 127 to 128, minus 128 to 127 only. Because 8 bits can store only that much. Okay. Similarly, integer data type. So if you are using unsigned char, if you are using the qualifier unsigned with char, the limit will change from 0 to 255 because minus value is not there. So the complete thing will start from 0 and the double of the 120, 127 to 1 to minus 127 to 120, minus 128 to 127 means 255 numbers. Okay, 256 numbers. So this is 256 number, and here if I give it as unsigned, it will be all in the positive side, that is from 0 to 255, making altogether 256 numbers, including 0. Then integer data type. So integer data type is where you can store a whole number, which can be positive or negative, and 0 is also included. And if you declare integer, it takes 4 bytes normally. Normally, it takes 4 bytes. It depends on the computer architecture also. Somewhere it takes only 2 bytes, and normally it takes 4 bytes. So here, it takes 4 bytes, and the size of the thing is also different. For example, the values you can store inside an integer variable is this much. So you can see a very long value, minus 21474833648 2 plus 21474833647. So this much value you can store in an integer. And similarly, unsigned, long, short, or signed, all these qualifiers can be used with integer also. Then float data type. Float is where you can store real numbers with decimal values. Okay, so the precision single with a single precision. So for float also, it takes 4 bytes. 4 bytes of memory is taken for float. And then double. Double is actually a floating point data type only, but it can hold double the size of the float because for high precision values, you use double. Okay, these are the main data types, and in double, it uses 8 bytes. While in float, it uses 4 bytes, but in double, it uses 8 bytes because you can store a very big value or a very small value up to a very high precision. So these are the different data types. Now we'll see how will you declare it. So, and we can see what is the size of, okay, I'll just copy this thing. I don't want to. What's happening? This is extra work. So all the punctuations went. Okay, anyway, I'm just using this same thing.
And make a text size smaller. Maybe it will help.
No, basically I made it bigger for you to read it easily. I can shrink it also, not a big deal.
This much is fine.
Okay, fine. So I thought, okay, maybe long D. Then I have okay, so this is a program where I have just declared 4 different variables A, B, C, and D. Okay, so this is actually given as different, like when we were giving something. For example, here there is no data type, it's only long. And the second one is long, long. There is no integer or nothing over there. Okay, this way also you can declare. For example, here what happens is it's a short variable, short A. So when you are taking without any data type, short and long, it will be considered as default integer, int. So when you are giving short A means it is equivalent to short int A. So first of all, you have to declare the variable. So this is nothing but declaring it. So once you are declaring it, the variable A gets that much of memory allocated in the RAM while executing it. And variable B, it gets long B, long int B, how much it takes. And long, long, so double long value C. Then long double. So it's of double, D is of double data type and it's a long double. So how much memory it takes? So there is a function which is in stdio.h itself, which is known as size of. So this size of function basically gives you how much memory is allocated for this argument which is coming inside. Okay, how much memory is allocated to B, how much memory is allocated to C, how much memory is allocated to A or D. So the size of function is also there inside our stdio.h, which prints, and the printf is also there in the same file. And I'm printing size of short data type is this one, and size of long data type is this much bytes. Okay, percentage is required. So percentage D and size of long D. Okay, long is also percentage D because these are all integers which are coming up. And the last one is also percentage D. Yes.
Ma'am, in the double semicolon, how percentage D is executed actually in double semicolon?
No,
Nothing.
double is actually the value which can store in D is double, but I'm not storing anything. I'm
No,
just printing how much memory it takes. It is an
no,
integer.
no. My question is that when we write printf double semicolon, nothing can be executed. Then in programming C, how it is possible? This is my
No,
question.
this is double quotation. What happens is you are telling about the content. Oh, sorry. So you are telling about the content from this one to this one, right?
Yes.
Okay, this one to this one is given to printf function. Printf function will be taking that. So the percentage D will be converted by this size of A. Suppose size of A is 2 bytes or 4 bytes. So that 4 will be substituted for this percentage D initially. And this value, this whatever is there in the double quotation will be given to printf. It will just print on the screen. It's not
Okay.
executed, but it will be just printed on the screen. As we were doing over here also, we were giving everything inside double quotation.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and for this also everything was given inside double quotation, and this percentage D, what happens is before sending this value which inside this double quotes to printf function, it substitute the percentage D, percentage F, or whatever it is, and then only send it to that particular person. So imagine that. So main, as I told you, is a function. Similar to that, printf is also a function. So the function, we are not covering functions in our session because that you will be seeing in your 0th week sessions already. So here what happens is, imagine that Rahul is the person who I am designating. Okay, so if I am not there in the class, please manage the silence and other things, discipline in the class. So I allocate one job to Rahul. He does only that work. He just see whether every person is disciplined, is the class noisy, that's all. And I say, Saurabh, okay, Saurabh, you write down the names of the absentees. So Saurabh will only listen to, okay, these are the complete list of the candidates, and these persons were present, and these are the absentees. So that means what happens is I have allocated one function to Rahul and another function to Saurabh. So they will be able to do only that thing. So now, for example, Saurabh, I told like write the absentee's name. So imagine that this is printing something equivalent to printing something on the console. So what happens is he looks into the presentees data and he refers with the absentees data, like the complete attendance sheet or the candidate list, and finds out who all are absent, and that value is returned. Only that job is done. So function is nothing but a particular set of statements which is written inside the function, and when we allocate something to that function, that get executed. It's not a complete thing. I'm not asking one person to do everything, but I'll allocate different persons for this. So similarly here, different functions are for different things. So printf is a function to print something on the console. So what to print? So that is being given as the parameter. So this whatever is there inside that bracket is known as the parameter. So that parameter is taken by the function and it does print on the screen. Clear? So similarly, here also what happens is size of short is printed, and percentage D, it will substitute what is the size of A. So now we'll just save it and I'll just show it to you how it get executed. Size.c. So I'm just executing it. Oh, I don't have that backslash n. Everything is coming in the same line. So you can see, basically, when you are declaring a short, as I told you, it is equivalent to short int. So int takes 4 bytes. So short int takes only 2 bytes. That means only the half the range of the values which an int can say store, that much can be stored inside a short. And here you can see the second one, B is a long type. So it is equivalent to a long int. So long int is same as the integer size of it. It's not too much. So 4 bytes. Then size of long. So when you give long, it is equivalent to double the size of integer. So that is why it is giving you 8 bytes. And then size of long double. So here it is long double. So long double is, normally double is 8 bytes. Long double takes 16 bytes. So this size of function calculates how many bytes each of this data type are being allocated in the memory. Because when this program is executed, in order to store the values in the variables A, B, C, and D, the variable should have some memory, and the size of the memory is decided by the data type which I gave for this. Okay, so we'll just make it as a simple int, float, char, and double. So these are the basic data types which we have seen. So here it is int, here it is float, here it is char, and this is double. So now since I made the changes in the program, I need to compile and run. So now you can see the complete thing is different. So for the integer, it has shown you 4 bytes. For the floating, it has shown you 4 bytes. For the character, it takes only 1 byte. And for the double, it takes 8 bytes. So if I put some short or small, short or long over here, it will change. But if I give unsigned or signed, it will not change the size. So if you give unsigned or signed, it will not change the size, but the values, it will not store the negative values. That's all. Clear? If you give short or long, the size of the variable will change. But if you use unsigned or signed, it will not change. Is that clear? Okay, that's it. Yes, Stacy.
Ma'am, if we are taking long int, then what will be the size?
So what can you expect?
8 bytes.
Because normally int takes 4 bytes. So if we go for long int, what will you expect?
8 bytes, maybe.
No. It will still be 4 bytes only. Long int also will be using only 4 bytes. That's why earlier we had long a was having only 4 bytes. It was equivalent to long int a, but it was only having 4 bytes. Okay. So now next one. So here you were able to see the size of
Ma'am?
the value. Yes, Aman.
Ma'am, the compiler which you're using is 64 or 32-bit, ma'am?
64-bit.
64-bit.
That's why it is giving me 4 bytes. Otherwise, it will give you 2 bytes for integer. That's why I told you it depends on the machine architecture, because my OS, my machine is 64-bit OS.
Okay.
And my machine is also 64-bit addressing system.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am,
Based on
so,
that, it will change. Yes, Aman.
okay. Ma'am, for long, it takes 4 byte for 62-bit, 64-bit, na, ma'am? So, what will be the size it will take when 32-bit is there?
Half of it.
Okay.
All the data types will be half of it except for char, because minimum 1 byte is required for char.
Okay.
Except for char, everything will take half of it.
Okay.
So the range of the values which can store in a 32-bit operating system is also different, because it's only the size is half. So 2 bytes only for integer means only that much range can be stored inside that. 2 bytes means 16 bits.
So, ma'am, long will take 2 bytes in 32-bit, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
Rahul?
In C, Boolean is also declared or not?
Yes, Boolean is there. Sorry, I forgot to include that. Boolean is there. Bool, suppose. And I print the. So, what will be the size of a Boolean?
Default is false.
But
True or false?
the size?
Oh, size. Not remember.
Exactly, it require only 1 bit, right?
Okay.
0 or 1. 0 or 1. It's using a 1 bit, but here we are using bytes. So let's see what it gives you. Okay, bool was having, okay, boolean. So
Boolean.
no, it is not taken. Okay. Yeah, I'll come to that later. It will not work over here. We will see that later. Okay.
Okay.
This is not a basic data type. This is not a basic data type. That is why you are not getting that. Okay. That's not a basic data type. So the basic data types which included our char, int, float, and double. So boolean we will see later. Okay. Next one. So right now we were just giving variables like in short a, long b, long c, etc. Now suppose instead of this, if I want to print the value, sim of a, not the size, the value of a is, I want to print a. So this is how you are going to print the value which is stored inside a variable. So value inside a is equal to percentage d, bytes is not required, is the value. So you can just give like this and you can go for the other things also. Value of b is b, value of c is c, and value of d is equivalent to d. So now what happens over here is we have just, so this is basically known as declaration, variable declaration. Variable declaration. I'm just declaring a as a variable which is of type long int or maybe int. So basically I'll just give it as int. And I'm declaring b as a variable which is of data type float and c as a variable which is of data type char. But I'm not giving any value for this. And without giving the values, I'm trying to print something. So a is equal to percentage d I can give, but for b I have to give percentage f is for the float, and for c character I need to give c, and for the double lf. These are the conversion characters. So I think that is there in somewhere in your yeah, it's over here. So in integer, you can use either percentage d or percentage I. Then for character, you can use percentage c. Float, you can use percentage f. For double, you can use percentage lf. And for short int, you can use percentage hd, or even percentage d also will work. Okay, and like that it goes. Like that it goes. So now here what happened is I haven't given any values for these variables, but I'm trying to print the values. Okay, let's see what is happening. See, earlier what happened is in earlier compilers, these would have been some junk values, because I told you like initially whatever was there in the memory, it is not overwritten or not swept off. So that junk value which was there would have been printed. But right now, mostly all the compilers had added a feature like clear off the memory and assign it. So when you are assigning 4 bytes to A, that 4 bytes will be cleared off, and the default value for integer is being put in that. So the default value for integer is 0. And the default value for float is 0.0000. And default value for character is null space. That is why you are not seeing anything over here. And the default value for double, long double or double, it is also 0.000. So that is why you are getting these values. Even if you haven't assigned any values, some of the compilers, it's not true about all the compilers, but some of the compilers will assign the default value of the database data type into those variables. Clear? So even if I haven't assigned the values, I was able to print it. But suppose if I give A is equal to 45, So this is now known as declaration and initialization. The same variable, or you can give it as in two statement also. For example, I can give float b, and after that I can give b is equal to 4.6. So here what happens is, this is variable declaration and this is initialize also. This is initialization. So we can do these two things in same step or in two different steps also. So initialization happens only for the first time. After that, when you keep on changing value, after that, if I give a is equal to 25 over here, that is not initialization. It is changing the value. Only for the first time when you assign some value to a variable, that is known as initialization. So that can happen while the declaration itself, or it can happen as a second step after the declaration. That means you require two different instructions for doing this, initialization separately and declaration separately. So both ways you can do. So here what happens right now is, when you execute this program, what happens is that two variables have assigned with some different values. For example, A is assigned with 45 and B is assigned with 4.6. But the other values I haven't assigned anything. So other values gets the default values still. Okay, so whatever variable you are initializing, that initial value will come up and the non-initialized values will get the default values. In some compilers only, don't think like this happens with every compiler. In some compiler, these two values like C and D will be printed with some junk values also, if the memory is not clear. Okay, so that's it. So that is why here it is checking declare versus initializing a variable. So declaring means you are just declaring the data type and the variable, so that the variable is attached with that much of memory location and it can store only that data type values. That's it. But the initial value, I am not putting anything. But some compilers will put the default value. Otherwise, what happens is, to declare a variable, you specify the data type and give the name of the variable, and it's an optional step to initialize it. If you want to initialize it, you can initialize it. And do not forget a semicolon at the end. After giving equal to and the value, you have to give it as a semicolon at the end, which is the end of the statement of every statement of Java or C program. So here you can see int n equal to 27. So here int is the data type and n is the name of the variable, and n is capable of holding integer values, both positive and negative values, including 0. And equal to is the assignment operator, and 27 is the value which is stored in the memory location where n is allocated. This is the meaning of simple sentence like int n equal to 27. That is why we told like Java is very concise or crisp language. We write small things, but in order to explain this 2-3 is a maximum of 7 character, we require this much of explanation. Okay, and here when you are giving an integer m, what happens is, this is just a declaration. We are not initializing. So no initial value is assigned, but m is an integer and it can hold integer values, both signed and unsigned, including 0. That's it. And no initial value is right now. So this is the difference between declaration and declaration with initialization. Okay. Now, what is the difference between initializing and declaring a variable? So here, as you have already seen, integer m, declaration, create a variable called n capable of holding integer values. But here it is initialization, creating a variable called n and assigning a value, storing the number in the variable. That means declaring the variable means we declare the name of the variable against its data type only. But when you are assigning or when you are initializing it, that means the initial value is also getting stored in that memory location. That now, when you write programs, here you can see format codes or format specifiers are used for input and output in C. For example, here whenever you wanted to print an integer value, you used %d. So these are nothing but the format strings or the format code. For different data types, the format strings are different. So here, there is a way to tell the compiler that what data has to be put instead of this particular formatting code. So that is what is being given. So the printf stands for, the F in the printf stands for formatted. So normally we used to write printf. So printf is nothing but print formatted. So what is the format used? Maybe if you want to include some integers or float or characters, you will be using the corresponding %x type of conversion word for that. So in the percentage printf, what happens is the compiler understands that, okay, some formatting is required. So if it finds like %d, it understands, okay, here some integer should come. If I put some float instead of that, it will immediately give you an error. Okay, so that in order to give the image, that understanding to compiler, we are using printf and this formatting codes. So these formatting codes will be used for input also. Inputting also. Okay, we will see one input statement. So here the sum of the program which we have seen is without using the variables and all. So I am not going to hard code it. So we will just see how we will have. Okay, so earlier I have shown you multi-line comment as */ /* and this one. So 2 lines are right now commented. Now here what I'm going to do is I'm going to declare 2 numbers, num1 comma num2. So both the things can be declared like this also. It's not like int num1 semicolon int num2 semicolon. No, you can give the same data type with separated with commas. Okay, so int num1 and num2 I have declared. Now what I want to do is I want to add 2 numbers which I have given you the question. But earlier it was something like 50 plus 70 only I was asking. But right now I want to make it more flexible that my program takes input from the user and whatever 2 values they are giving me, the sum will be returned back. So for that, I should use some input statement also. Input means taking the value from the user. Now output statement is printing, that is showing the value to the user. Now I want to take the value from the user. So here the state, okay, instead of just giving the thing, I'm just giving printf enter 2 integer values. So why I'm giving this is because the user should know what he should do. Okay, while executing the program, I will get only that command prompt. If nothing is printed, I don't know what I should do. So I should say the user, you enter 2 integers. Okay, now the next one is our first ever input statement, which is the function known as scanf. Scanf is the function used for taking input from the user. Now I am going to give %d because I am going to read integers. In order to print integers also, we are using %d. In order to read integers also, we are using %d. And I'm giving a space and giving another %d also. And these values which are being given by the user, where should it go? The first value should go and sit in num1 and the second one should go and sit in where? Num2. Yes, num2. But if I give num1 comma num2, what happens is it will make an error because when I give num1 and num2, the compiler takes the content of num1 and num2, what is stored in num1 and num2. But here what happens is the value which is coming in should go and store in that memory location where num1 and num2 are given space. Isn't it? I'll just show you. Just a minute. So suppose you have the statements like int num1 comma num2. This was a statement executed. So now what happens is when this statement is executed, so there is a memory, and inside that memory, some 4 bytes are allocated for num1. So this is being referred by num1 and this is being referred by num2. So this memory location is referred by num1 and num2. Okay. Now when I use num1 in my program, what happens is it goes and reads whatever is there stored inside this memory. If I declare, or if I use num1 or num2, it goes and read the value which is stored in the memory. But here what I want to do is, I want to take the value from the user and has to put it inside the memory location. So for that, you may be using another argument known as ampersand. Ampersand means address of. So here what happens is, take the first integer and save it in the address of num1 and take the second integer and store it in the address of num2. Is that clear? All of you? Okay. So now both the values are being saved in the memory. Now what you can do is, I can just print these things in a different fashion. So instead of %50, I'll give %d. Instead of 70, I'll give %d. And instead of these two things, I'll give num1 plus num2. Sorry, initial one is num1, comma, num2, comma, this two. Here what happens is, the sum of, there are 3 %ds inside this printf. So the first %d will be substituted with the first variable immediately after the closure of this double quotes. So whatever value is num1 will be printed instead of this, whatever values of num2 will be printed instead of this, and whatever value calculated by adding num1 and num2 will be substituted for this %d. Okay, so here what happens is, I will just save the program and I'm executing it. Now you can see it is asking me to enter 2 values. Earlier, it never asked me. It was just printing something and going off. But now it is pausing for my input values. So whichever numbers you want to add. So the first one, I'll go for 50 and 70 itself. So 50 space 70 I'm giving. So now what happens is, 50 will go and sit into num1, 70 will go and sit in num2, and that is why I'm getting the answer like this. Now if I want to change the values and execute it once again, it is again asking me, enter 2 values. Here I'm giving 23 and 89. I don't want to change my program because the program takes value from me. I need to give different values only. So see, 23 and 89 is 112. So this is why using the variables, you can do the program executed with different values at different execution. So initial execution time, num1 was 50 and num2 was 70. And in the second execution time, num1 was 23 and num2 was 89. Is that clear? So the memory locations allocated for num1, num2, and the values are taken from the user, saves it in the particular area, and uses it for the arithmetic operation plus. So is that clear? Any doubts? So instead of this hard coding, right now we have used variables. The same thing is being written using variables because otherwise every time you need to edit the program. So why we are not going for hard coding, in the sense like we are writing this program and I am giving this program to someone who doesn't know C programming. So he cannot change the program every time, compile it and execute it. So he will just execute the program with different values of his input. So that is why the variables are very much important in every language. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So now the format codes are nothing but formatted printing and formatted inputting. Only for input and output you go for formatting. So input, how the input is formatted in the sense like whatever value you are giving. Okay, let me show you how this is working. Formatted strings are working. So here it is expecting two integers, right? So suppose if I give 10.4 and 58.7, what will happen? Can anyone tell me? It is, even if it is asking me to enter two integer values, I am giving some value which is there in my mind. 10.4 and 58.7 or whichever, float values or double values or whatever. So what will happen? Can anyone tell?
It only print int value, ma'am. Only print int value.
No. See, initially it was taken as 10 and the second one is entirely different. 58.7 is entirely different. It is taken 1. You can, because what happened is it takes 10, initial 10 as integer. Because it's a formatted input, what happens is it expects integer. So up to some non-allowed thing in integer. So decimal point is not allowed in integer. Space is not allowed in integer. So earlier we used to give a space between two numbers and give that. Okay. So up to the space, it was taking the first integer, and after the space, it was taking the second integer. Correctly, it was doing. But here what happened is 10.4, 10 will go and sit in the first variable correctly. But the next thing is 0.4, the percentage D cannot convert. So it will use a random value. It will take a random value. It is not even touching into 58.7 because it is stopping before, much before that. So this is what is meant by formatted input. It will not take 10 and 58 as we were expecting. It is a format means whatever format is allowed in integer number, that only it allows to read. So 10 is allowed, so it took. But 0.4 is not allowed. So it was working on some other junk value right now. Because in the num1, num2, there was some junk value which was earlier. So it got into that. So that is what you mean by formatting, formatted string codes. So here we were using %d for integer, so etc. So there are something known as different formatted things for the, so here it gives you the size in bytes also, as well as the format specifier for the data types. So here you can see int, char, float, double, short int, unsigned int, long int, long int, unsigned long int, unsigned long int, signed char, unsigned char, and long double. So these are the all specifiers and classifiers of the data type. So Boolean is directly not a data type of C, but we can use that in another way. Okay, so these are the main data types of the C language. And the conversion or the format specifier for each are been given over here. Now I believe, yeah, yes.
It means you shown some example 10.4, right? So it means what scanf is doing, it is taking input from the user and converting into the string and giving to the function, right?
Not string, it is converting to integer only. It is taking as integer only because we have used %d. So here, suppose if I'm giving 45.6 and 86, 78.1.
Don't put space. Okay. Press enter.
Because, yeah, why I used space? Because here I have used a space.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I
Then
integers in the same line.
So space is okay, fine, ma'am.
Yes.
Got it. It will accept.
So here what happened was 45 was taken, but the second one it is not taking, and it depends on, so every time it was one only. Last time also it was.
Yeah.
Even the after the point, it was different values. It was one only earlier, and right now also it is one, but it is a junk value which has been taken.
So it is treating the decimal as another integer input.
No, it is not taking, because the decimal point is not allowed in an integer. So the formatted converter doesn't read this 0.6 or 0.1, or it cannot read after 45. Only 45 can be read by the scanf statement, and the rest of the things are automatically filled with some junk value. It cannot proceed further.
Okay, ma'am. You also try 45 space 78.1.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That was a nice question. Can anyone imagine what's the output?
45 plus 34. Yeah.
Whatever.
34 plus 67.
Yeah. What will be the output? Anyone can explain? Anyone can make a wild guess?
34 and 67.
Of course, because
Oh,
34 was an integer, space already was there in the formatted scanf, so that was allowed. And 67, up to 67, it was an integer, it took. But decimal is not allowed in percentage D. So it stopped at 67. So that was
okay,
a
ma'am.
that was a good question, Banu.
Ma'am, try with you put percent D space percent D, na? So you try with
Oh,
percent D
just
dot
a minute,
space percent D.
just a minute. My connection went off. What happened? Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, you are telling about some other option, right? Okay, we'll see.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what was the option you were telling about?
Ma'am, before compilation, close this window. In
Okay,
scanf,
fine.
in scanf.
Hmm.
So if we put percent D dot space
Dot
space.
space.
Yeah, what it will do? We'll check.
Okay, so here it is asking you to enter two integer values. So what value you want to give, Banu?
10.4
10.4. Okay, then.
space 12.3. Yeah, so I think it will take 10 plus 4, ma'am. I think. No, na? Right. Okay, got it.
Yes, it will. That is what you mean by formatted.
So I think it is
Format
taking
we are
decimal as an
using.
integer, right? ASCII
No,
integer.
no.
No,
It is in the
it was.
format itself. We have used point and a
Mhm.
space. So now what happened is it started reading from 1, so up to 10. It was finding it as an integer, and the next one is a point. So it finds that in the scanf there is a point. So that
Okay.
means the point is taken as a delimiter.
Oh, delimiter. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
So we can
delimiter. So
also program a
whatever.
delimiter. Okay,
Yes,
also
this is a delimiter. Earlier, that space was a delimiter. When
delimiter.
I gave,
Got it, ma'am.
yeah. So here,
Mhm.
that dot and space is taken as a delimiter. So now the dot is there. Now
Got it, ma'am. Got it.
yeah, what happened is 10 is taken as the first integer, and dot and space it was expecting, but space is not there, but dot was there. So the
Mm.
immediate after that, whatever character is there will go as the second variable, because 10.4 is followed by a space. So space is also a delimiter. So
Got it,
that is
ma'am.
it took 10 as the first element and 4 as the second element. And
Okay, ma'am.
12.3 is not at all considered.
Got it, ma'am.
Yeah, that was a brilliant doubt, Banu. Okay, you would have tried. You just try doing all the things. Whatever is coming in your mind, you just try it out. Anyway, computer will not scold you, no? At the maximum, it will give you error. Error.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Please
Aman, yeah.
explain about delimiter.
Yeah, delimiter in the sense, like for example, I'm reading two numbers. So if I give like this %d without any delimiter and %d, so how will I give my two values when I'm giving input? So suppose, for example, I give a comma. Okay, instead of dot, I'm giving a comma over here. So if I am compiling and running it, instead of giving two numbers with space in between, I can give it as comma. So now what happens is comma will be taken as a delimiter. So it starts reading from the first character onwards. And when a delimiter is coming, up to that, whatever is being taken as input will go into the first variable. And the delimiter is omitted. It will not consider the delimiter. It will not take the delimiter. And whatever is remaining till the enter key is pressed will go into the second variable. So here I have used the delimiter as comma.
Okay, ma'am. Just to separate the two
Yeah.
values we've
Yes,
used.
yes. Otherwise, what you have to do is, okay, I'll show you that also. If I'm not confident about delimiters, I need to use two scanfs. So this will also work in the same way. But, so see, scan of %d, ampersand number, scan of %d, ampersand num2. So this will also work in the same way, but let me tell you, I can type force, enter, take the next value. These are two scanfs.
Yes, ma'am.
These are the two scanfs. So in that case, what I will do is I need to have two scanfs, and the separately I am entering the values. So that is also possible. But I want a single scanf where I can specify a delimiter and give the two values in the same. Clear?
Okay, ma'am. Now it's clear, ma'am. Can you please explain that example which is given by Bhanu Prakash? Can you please explain it again?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So he was given like this, dot and space. So here what happened is dot as well as space are taken as delimiters. Okay, wherever you find a dot, it will delimit. And wherever you find a space, it will delimit. So here, when we executed this, what happened was we gave the value as 12.6 space 67. So here what happened is 12 will be taken because dot is a delimiter. So num1 will have 12. So dot is the delimiter. So immediately after that 7 is there. So 7, and immediately after 7 there is a space which is again a delimiter. So now the first value num1 will be 12 and num2 will be 7. Clear?
Okay, ma'am.
So the delimiter, any delimiter you can give over here, but basically you need to tell the people also how to give. So integer values separated with comma. So in that case, what you have to do is here you can give a comma like this, so that the user will also understand, okay, I need to give two integers and I need to separate both of them with a comma. Or if it's a space, you can give separated with a space, so that the user will understand. Yes, Ceci?
Ma'am, if I am using the delimiter as a comma, and in my output, if I am not giving a comma, then what will happen? Is it showing an error or something?
Okay, we'll see that also. But anyway, some delimiter should be used, right, to separate the two values. So here it is expecting a comma right now. So how do you want to give your input?
If I am using space instead of comma.
Okay, so suppose I'm giving 23. Okay, you can give me the value.
23 space 45.
See, the second one, it is not the delimiter which you have specified. So the second one is a junk. Because this is not artificial intelligence. It works exactly on the statements. So when I give okay, comma as my formatted input, you have to use comma. This cannot think, okay, space is also there. Okay, let me take the second one also. Nothing doing. It's a very obedient servant. Okay. So I believe the next things, operators, you already know, like arithmetic operator, assignment operator. Okay, we'll see that, but time, I think maybe on
Ma'am.
Monday, we may increase the time for 2 hours if it's not finishing, because I have operators.
Hello.
Yes, yeah,
Ma'am.
ma'am.
Ma'am, it means whatever delimiter we have used, it should be same as while giving the input. It should remain same, no, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am.
That is
And
why basically we used to give the print statement more meaningfully like this. So enter two integer values separated with a comma or separated
ma'am.
with a space. You have to give messages like that.
Okay, ma'am.
This is
And
what
ma'am,
you mean by, okay, these types of messages is what you mean by user friendliness. Because user can understand from this message itself what he should give and how should be separated. Everything is there. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. And ma'am, one more thing I want to ask. Ma'am, junk value as here in this example, one it is giving. So ma'am, it will remain one in all the cases, or it will change in
No, it
different
will change.
scenario.
It will change.
It will change. Okay.
You cannot predict what junk value will be coming, because for my system, my compiler, it is giving 1, but for
Okay,
some
ma'am.
other
It means
system,
it depends on compiler, ma'am.
yeah, it depends.
Okay. Okay.
And it also depends on the junk value, previous value, which is there in the memory. Because junk means it's the previous value which is there in the memory. So that depends on that.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so is that clear now? So sometimes maybe on Monday, come prepared for being at least for 2 hours, because I don't know whether I'll be able to cover it up, because operators, anyway, you know operators, but just examples we can see, then conditional statements, if else, break, continue, switch, then loops, then arrays. So these much things I am supposed to cover up in these 3 days, but I think the initial 2 days, these 2 days, we went so much elaborate. But I believe you have understood the basics of it thoroughly. Okay, so basically, maybe on Monday on 14th, I may take 2 hours, 10 to 12. So please be prepared for that. Okay. So anyway, today we will wind it up. And today we will share this PPT with you. And if you can practice on this, because these are all very simple things like plus, minus, star, slash, and modulus, you know. Only thing is somewhat confusing is plus equal to, minus equal to, then maybe plus plus, minus minus, etc. Then and or not. We will discuss all these things anyway, but maybe taking some more time. So come prepared till 12 o'clock on 14th. Okay. Okay then. Bye for now.
Okay, ma'am.
And keep on practicing these things, because this will help you to build your basics.
Tomorrow is also a class, no, ma'am?
No, Saturday we don't have for this particular week. We don't have, but
Okay.
mainly when your classes starts every Saturday is a working day.
Okay.
So this Saturday we don't have the class. On 14th